I don't seem to be able to stop making pop-up cards and pop-up projects. So there's no surprise that I have for you today another. And I'm going to try to make this the last one for a little while at least, so that you don't get too bored with it. It is a rather long video, so I do apologize for that. But if you don't want to sit through the whole thing, please feel free to just fast forward, put it on a higher speed, just so that you get to the end and you can see the final result. Now, what do I have for you today? I have this. And this is actually a little more than a card. I've turned this into a display. And as you can see, it has no pearls or, big bows or flowers or anything on it, because this needed to stay as flat as possible. So these are just, images and sentiments and pieces that are actually just glued on here flat, but this little frame helps to give it the illusion of some dimension. It's also closed with this ribbon, which is actually secured behind this red cardstock. When you open it up, inside is the pop-up. And that is your retro diner. I know it's going to be a bit difficult to see at this point, but as you can see, it is multi-tiered. So this is what I would think you would call a tower type of pop-up, and it's secured onto the base with these hook and loop pieces. So if you wanted to make the front of it a card, you could, but just put that there so that it would be well secured onto there. And you see all the retro decoration. And as I said, it just folds flat. And because this ribbon closure will keep it fairly flat, you could put that into either something like a padded envelope or make a little box for it. So if you would like to see how I made this multi-tier pop-up, stick with me. I'll show you how. A full sheet of A4 cardstock, and I'm going to just score it in the center of the sheet. So it's 11 3/4, so just about. So we'll score it at 5 7/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7/8. And fold it over and burnish it. Now if it's a little off, like it is here, because this is a bit of a strange size, what you can do is actually just move it in your scoreboard, but the easiest thing to do would be just to trim that little bitty piece right there. Because it is a bit of an odd size, I'm going to just trim that little bit there, because you'll find sometimes that cardstock isn't exactly cut perfect to the intended size. So I'm just going to use my trimmer and cut that little bit off. Quite literally was just a little bit, just that little sliver. Background, I have this piece of American Craft cardstock, which I have cut to fit into these side pieces here like that. So I've got that little bit of white on the middle, but then I don't have to worry about that cracking. This is cut at just about a 1/16 of an inch shorter than 5 3/4. So just 5 3/4 and count back 1/16. And the length is just about 8 1/16, something like that. Just really all you have to do is just put it up to your page and just see what looks good to you. Don't have to worry about being absolutely precise. These are all the pieces for the pop-up mechanisms. And as you can see, they are 2 different colors because I just didn't have enough of one to make all the pieces. So I just went with something similar to it. And I'm quite happy with that. I don't think it's going to be extremely noticeable. So the first thing I want to do is to start with the V-folds. They're going to be right angle V-folds, and they're going to be parallel to each other. They measure 6 inches by 3 inches. And with all V-fold right angles, just need to score it through the center, which would in this case would be 3 inches. So score it at 3 inches, then turn it, and on the 3-inch side now, score at 1/2 inch. That gives us that 1/2 inch tab. We don't want anything any smaller than that because this is going to go under a lot of stress if it's pushed, pulled back and forth. And we also want to be sure that these score lines have been folded back and forth a few times, so that I'm going to use this double-sided tape. It's a very, very strong tape, and rather than have glue, I'm just going to use that. So I'm going to apply my tape to this first piece. I'm just going to come along here. And run it on this 1/2 inch score line. And what I'll do is I'll use my bone folder to get that adhesive in there. And then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to cut along this fold here at a diagonal, and that will give us that V shape. And we may need to deepen it later, but we'll just see how we get on. I'm going to cut it off here as well, so that we have this pointed shape like that. And depending on how close those lines become, we may need to trim a little more off so that they don't overlap, but I think that's probably going to be just fine. So that's our first V-fold ready. Now I'm going to place this is going to be the top, right? And I'm going to place this so that it sits here towards the top, and I'm going to get it at a fairly close 90-degree angle, so that these tabs are going to come very close to the top of the page, and then that fold will match up with the gully or the fold here on the cardstock. Check on your 90-degree angle. What you can do is just take a piece of scrap card, set it in there to where it becomes that angle there. So that's your 90-degree angle. And this is going to point down towards the bottom of the page. But I forgot that I need to also do another score line. So I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch at the top. And the reason we're doing that is because we're going to have a little top piece on this. So we're going to repeat this same thing that we did for the bottom. Okay, so take tape and go back over, and what I'll do is, just to give that a little more security, I'll come back with some of the liquid glue on that tab. So I had to remove it. As I said, sometimes my brain doesn't quite engage. So there we are. Now we can again cut our V and finish up the tab. Hopefully I won't do that on the next one. So let's put this back down now. Put a little bit of this glue on here. I was lucky it didn't rip the card. Going to hopefully keep that well and truly stuck down. So there's our line again. Started from. I'm going to come back in with my card. Angle back again. Ensure that that is in the center. And now going to go in here like this and press that down, and I may just come back in here with my tape and place that back over so that it doesn't get stuck down, because probably shouldn't have removed that until I was ready for the top. Right, next we'll repeat that, only this time we're going to score it in the middle at 3 inches and score it that side, 1/2 inch on that side. Folding and burnishing. And fold back these tabs. adhesive down on these now. So we're going to bring this back in, and this piece is going to be placed parallel to this one. And again, I'm going to find a piece of scrap. This little scrap is probably just under 2 inches, probably close to 1 3/4. And what I can do is just lie it down here, and that's going to give me, again, that angle. Probably go in a bit darker there this time. You can always rub that out. And again, we can just take these off and get it in place. Again, move the backing. We have to work from this side. Just want to be sure that those are parallel to each other, that's all. So you can decide on the gap that you want. And I want that match up as much as I can. And there are our 2 V-folds in place. Next, there's going to be a piece of card that is going to rest on the top of these V-folds. To go on top of this, we need a piece that is 5 by 5.5, and if we need to trim it, we can do that after we've given it a test. And what I've selected for this is actually Christmas cardstock. It is from an old Trimcraft first edition 6x6 pack, and it is going to fit right over the top. But of course, we need to be sure, actually I think I'm going to trim that down a bit, that it spans that center point there. So we need to score it. On the 5-inch side, and score it at 2.5 inches. Then you can fold and burnish it. Then I want to center it so that that fold is right into here. And the only thing you need to worry about is that you've covered that back piece. So you could have it further forward if you like that. It doesn't have to be, exactly in the middle, but you don't want it also going off the side of the card here. So what we need to do then is to remove the backing of the tape. Okay. Be sure that's covered. Catch it there. to be sure that that was not going to extend beyond these edges here. Give it a good press. Then open it, and we have our little roof. Next, we're going to repeat that process on top of this one, and for that we need the 2.5 by 5-inch pieces. Those should be these, and they are 2.5 by 5. Score them in half. So 2.5. Score both of these again at 1/2 inch, and then just do the same with this one. These two then are going to go like we did with the other piece, parallel to each other and pointing downward towards the front of the card. So we're going to probably about, that should be about right there. So the next thing is to place this piece on top. That means it needs to be scored. And as I said, this one has been cut to 4.5 by 4.5. So 2 1/4 down the middle. And hold that back and forth a couple of times. Then, just like we did before, and to make sure that goes into that center. Piece that is cut at 3.5 inches by 1 3/4, and this is going to be an acute V-fold. And with this, I'm going to, of course, score it down the middle, so it's 3.5, so that's 1 3/4. Fold and burnish it. Now with this one, notice we didn't place a tap here. All we're going to do is just mark up about 1/2 inch, about like that. And And that is where we're going to fold to. So we can just kind of pinch it there. And depending on the angle that you give it, you can make it very sharp or you can have it more elongated. I'm just going to press that up like that. And you'll see that it has this little bit that sort of pokes out there. And then when you open it up, you should see that it has this peak here, just like we had with the right angle. So it should come into a peak here. And that's where our glue tab is. That is going to go on top of this piece here. So again, place it in the middle. Just kind of find its own way, like that. Yeah. That's going backwards, like that, and then just close it again. I'm now ready to build on this structure. And I'm going to start with, on either side here, I've got a piece that I'm going to place down. This measures 5.5 by approximately an inch. You can make it whatever width you want, of course. And you just need to be sure that it's going to fit in to this opening here, onto this back wall, sort of. And with this, what you need to do, you could put it in your scoreboard, but actually it's just as easy to do it like this. Just fold it in half. You can take your fingers and press against there. And you fold it and burnish it. And then you're going to fold it in half again. And you could do this a number of ways. You could fold it back like that if you like, but it can get a bit thick. You can fold it up like that to the other end, just to be sure that you're getting it right. Or, of course, you can just fold in like that up to that score line. Either way, the end result is the same. So you'll have a total of 3 folds. Then what you want to do is place your adhesive, and I'm going to use the double-sided tape still. Place it here and place it here on this top. So you've got, if you were to open that up like that, these folding in, you'll have your adhesive here and here. Next, expose that glue under there. Then I need to decide where I want it to go, so I'm going to place it fairly near to the end of that. I'm just going to come in just not even a quarter of an inch probably. You can see that. I'll just press it in. So that's stuck there. Then take this side and for this side all you need to do is to lay it flat like that. So you can see flat now. And then fold your card shut. And that is going to attach to the back of that piece. And you'll see in just a moment what you have. So you have this little piece here. You can see that's coming loose a bit. I need to make sure I've got some more glue in there. Because when you formed these V folds, you've created essentially another gully. So you've got something like you've had here in the middle, but now it is here. So you can actually build on all of these. You can come right straight out if you like. I'm going to do the same on this side. And I get my other piece of 5.5 by 1. And I'll repeat that on this end. piece is going to be done a little differently. This measures 10 inches by 1 inch. I'm going to have it extending from here towards this corner here, like that. Now, I'm actually going to use the scoreboard for this piece because I want to score it like this at 4 inches, at 5 inches, and at 9 inches. So we have that. I'm going to fold it and burnish it. You see, this is a much longer piece. Those two that are an inch apart, and then we have this one as well. So for this, again, I'm going to place it against this gully here. Right. I'm going to turn it that way because I want the one with the tab at the top. So that is going to be glued down here. This is going to come up. That will be folded flat, and only this tab will have any adhesive on it, and then fold it up again and glue it into place. So let's get our adhesive on here. Again, I'm using the tape, so I'm going to run it on either side like I did with the others. Now we can remove this and place this first piece down. So that it comes here into that piece here, and let's have it come slightly off. Now for the front of this card, in front of the large structure, I've got a piece that measures 4 inches by 2.5 inches. Yes, 2.5. This is going to be another V-fold, a right angle V-fold. So score it. Down the middle, so that's 2 inches, and then turn it and score it at 1/2 inch. So that is exactly like these others that we did at the beginning. And again, we'll hold this back and forth, place our adhesive on there, cut the glue tabs. that in. And then this is going to come forward here about like that. Now, I'm just wondering if I need it that high. Yeah, I think I am going to keep it that high. Think about that. Got the wrong measurement on that, I believe. So this, I wanted 2 inches instead of 2.5. So that I cut that off to, yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to cut this quickly and I'll be right back. That from the end of the tab here to the edge at 2 inches, so that's folded back. That gives me 1.5 inches, and that is much better. I didn't think that looked right. So, as we've done on all the others, I'm going to place this, and it's going to go at the front. Here's a little cheat sheet. So, good. Not overlapping this time. And then I'm going to leave about that much in front. Just check that angle. Again, this is going to fold forward. A little bit more. I can fold it over. And there we have it. Then we have this that we can attach things to. I'm going to take another 4 by 1 inch and make that same piece that we did there by folding it in half. Now, coming up on the last 2 pieces that I'm going to use on this side, and that again is another piece of 5.5 by 1 and another 3 by 1. I'm going to go onto this side, except that this time I'm going to have these lined up against each other. There's that piece. Now this one, we're going to attach the gully of that previous. Went to review the footage of what I've done so far. I saw that the way I had the camera, it was very, very difficult to see these bits here that I've attached. So hopefully, if I lift it up like that, you might get a better idea of what it looks like. Like here where it's attached, and here it's on the front of this piece, and then these here on the side as well. You can see this steps sort of up there, and then we have this one in the back, which essentially mirrors the one on the other side. So I'll also give you an idea of how I did that. What else I can do is just to use this little piece of scrap, and since it's white, it should show up a lot better against this red card. Give you an idea how that actually was achieved. You put your glue here, or your adhesive here and on here, then you lie this down flat like that and just press it into your cardstock, then take the other end, fold it like that so it's flat, like so, and then keeping that in position, close the front, and then that will actually be attached there like that. Fun bit of any project, of course, is when it comes to adding all the decorative pieces, and that's what I've done here. I've fussy cut all the little images that I've chosen, and I've glued them onto a little bit of cardstock. It's not overly thick, but gives it just a little more stability rather than just being on paper. And I might, find a few other pieces later, but this is what I'm going to start with. Now, I did make life a little bit difficult for myself in that I would like to add decoration into these V folds here, and had I decorated those before I started attaching the other pieces, it would have been a lot easier. But to be honest, I really hadn't planned that far in advance, so I'm just going to take my time and do the best I can. Me, decorating is more of a fluid process. I very rarely, if ever, plan a project completely out as far as how I'm going to finish it. So, and I think that's part of the fun, but it is something that perhaps I could work on because it might speed things up a bit when I go to film these things. But I'm not going to worry about it too much. What I'll do is I'm going to just play around with these, and I will probably be all over the place. So I'm not going to be narrating during this part, and I'll speed up part of the filming now as well as I go through the decorating process. And I may stop along the way to explain things. else I've decided to do is to trim these corners here on the front only. I'm not going to touch the back. So what I've done is made myself a little template. I can place it on here and cut that little bit out there. So I have this metallic marker in gold, and I'm going to go around the edges here and just add little dots in the same way you would do faux stitching. Because of this tip on this marker, it really lends itself to the little spots. Rather than make a card of this, I'm actually going to make it a display. You, of course, don't have to do that. You could just have it as a card, because it is going to fold up quite nicely. And for this one, because it is so dimensional, you would want to have a belly band to send with it. But I am going to do something, as I said, a little different. What I've done is I've cut a piece of cardstock to 12 inches by 8 3/4 inches. I just pretty much just kind of guesstimated where I wanted it and just cut it out to those dimensions. Well, what I'm going to do is to take some 12 by 12 cardstock, and I'll cover this. What I'm using is this piece of black cardstock. This is the American Craft cardstock. And all I need to do now is to trim it to that 8 3/4 here. So we score it at the 6-inch mark here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually flip it over, and I'm going to do it on the other side as well. And that should help it to fold very nicely. Closure for this, I'm going to bring in this ribbon, and I'm going to attach it to the back and front of this piece, because this is all going to get covered, so that will catch that in there. I'm going to use some red liner tape. I have on hand, I found this piece which I thought had a bit of a diner vibe to it. So I'm going to trim this down and place it on the front. And I'm actually going to make this the same size as the base, rather than leaving a border around it. This then has been cut to 6 by 8 3/4. And I'm going to glue them down on there like that. Anything that's two-dimensional for the front of this, so I'm not going to be using any foam squares, but I am going to make a little frame here for our image, and that will give it that illusion of that dimension. And all I've used are some pieces from offcuts of the American Craft cardstock, and then of course this same pattern that we used on the cover. I have this little sentiment here, Sweet Memories. This is intended to be the base for the display. I'm not going to add any dimensionals on here at all, no pearls or anything like that. And this is going to come inside of here and fit on there like that. It'll fold up like so. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some hook and loop dots to actually hold this down. I would use magnets, but I'm afraid the magnets that I have just would not be strong enough for this. But of course you could do that, in which case I would recommend, you know, putting them at maybe 3, maybe 2, one here, maybe a couple of here, and a couple here. Or you could have 3 on the side, whatever you like. But I'm going to use the hook and loop. I think just those four are all that's needed, because that is staying together rather well. Then we'll bring in our ribbon now, tie it. Retro diner pop-up display. Or it could be a very elaborate card, of course. And I'm going to do my best to pan around here and show you the various parts. There are the little stools, the counter. They continue on to the side. Coming down, we have you can see there into the diner. Again on this side. Move into it, you can see the diner off in the distance with the booth there. Even around to our last little parked car there. From the back we have where all the little cars are parked for the drive-in, enjoying their burgers and sundaes. You can see there are some under the carport there. Look at the other decorations in the corner. That gold stitching there going out of focus. Corner pieces, nothing wasted. Used all those little offcuts from the striped card. Here, a little sentiment with love. One more pan round to our twin car hubs, down to our counter, and down to the next floor with the booth and all the vehicles pulled up to the drive-in spots. But hopefully one of those ladies will be serving them on their roller skates. Hope you enjoyed the making of this tower style pop-up in the form of a retro diner, and use it as a display stand rather than just as a card. And like I said, you could just give that as a card, and I suppose it really is, in all honesty. Is really high, and you can see the ladies there. In fact, if I measure it, it stands about, that's about 6 inches, about 6 inches. And when you fold it, none of those parts actually extend out on the sides. So they're all contained within this boundary, so that you can then fold it and secure it with a bow, and then send it to someone very special. so much for watching with me today. I know it was a bit long, and for those of you who stuck with me to the end, thank you so very much. I'd also like to invite those of you who have not already subscribed to my channel to do so today. If you enjoyed it, leave me a thumbs up. A comment below is always welcome. And please share with your friends. I'll see you again for another video tutorial very soon. In the meantime, stay safe and crafty hugs. Bye.